Well, hello, our fellow friends, our fellow neighbors, and our fellow shining stars. Our next trolley stop is here, and our next trolley stop is now. Welcome back to an all-new episode of PR from the Heart's children's book Spotlight series. To be precise, we have reached episode number 152. That is the 152nd trolley stop here at the Children's Book Spotlight series in PR from the Heart. My name is John Masiulionis. It is such a pleasure to be able to spend some more quality time with all of you, wherever you are, wherever you may be, and joining us here in our neighborhood. Happy continued summer reading season. We always love this time of the year because little ones, I don't know if little ones are channeling their inner Alice Cooper, but school's out for the summer. That's my best Alice Cooper impersonation. But during the summertime, it's so important to be able to do our part, to be able to help our little ones stay connected with the love and joy of reading, because sooner than we know it, back to school season is around the corner. And yes, let's, for us big kids, right, we can go back in the Wayback Machine and remember what it was like when we started a new school, a new grade even for the first period, for the first point in time in our lives. And we had a lot of different emotions, whether it be anxiousness or fear or stress. A lot of times we were even excited. And when we're stepping into a new grade, when we step into a new school, and again, even as we're growing older, if we go from that 8th grade to freshman year of high school, right, we can always say, how am I going to meet new friends? Will I meet new friends? So we can even feel lost and afraid and alone. But I always go back to one of my favorite songs by the legendary Bill Withers and Morgan Freeman, the great actor. He had a movie that was tied into the song. You know where we're going with this? Lean on me. We always need someone to lean on, right? And so leave it to one of our newest neighbors at PR from the Heart to be able to remind children and adults alike that we are not alone, and that it is so beautiful to know. It's such a good feeling that we have trusted neighbors in our life that we can rely on, that we can lean on together when we start something new, whether it be school, a new project, a new career. So we encourage all of you, our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow shining stars, to head on over to Amazon.com. You can purchase your copy of A Desk to Lean On. And of course, one of the many ways that you can support David is by leaving a 5-star review. Of course, that's one of the many ways you can pledge your support for David, to let him know that he is doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and those who love great children's books. The trolley, we're racking up some miles here this week in episode number 152. We traveled from San Diego all across the country to the beautiful, beautiful area, New York City, just right outside of Connecticut. And David, for all of our listeners and viewers, a lot of the times when they join us and they see my last name and they say Masalo, and they have a little bit of difficulty pronouncing my last name. For our listeners and viewers, can you pronounce your last name so everyone knows who you are in the process?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is David Valovcin. So the second V is silent. It always used to mess up the teachers. They would go, David, and I go, oh, I'm here, because I know that they're struggling with my last name. But yes, so the second V is silent, so it's pronounced Valovcin.
Joining us is our featured guest here in episode number 152 of the Children's Book Spotlight series, the author of the brand new release, A Desk to Lean On, David Valovcin. David, again, we appreciate your spending some time with us here today in our neighborhood, and congratulations on the release of your brand new children's book.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.
Now, of course, if you're excited, if you're ready saying, you know what, I feel I'm going to be learning a lot during this trolley stop on episode number 152 of the Children's Book Spotlight series, be sure to have some pretzels stocked by. And if you're wondering, why are David and I bringing up pretzels? Well, you will find out in no time flat. We encourage you, if you have the opportunities to do so, one of the many ways that you can support the Children's Book Spotlight series and PR from the Heart is to subscribe to PR from the Heart's official YouTube channel and to share this very special trolley stop that you are now enjoying. That is episode number 152 of the PR from the Heart Children's Book Spotlight series. David, I love this book. Thank you for bringing this into the world and for sharing this wonderful story. It's we always like to start off all of our children's book spotlight series with the author's origin stories, because we all come from different walks of life, even though we are all doing this wonderful work that we're doing together for the children to be able to nurture their minds, their hearts, and their souls. The journey to the dance is always different for all of us in some way, shape, or form. Could you share with us a little bit about your origin story and what, and in this particular instance as well, whom inspired you to step into the world of KidLit and to become a children's author?
Sure. So, I mean, I've always grown up, I was born in Connecticut. I currently live in Connecticut. I have family near me in Connecticut, my parents. But, my true inspiration for this book, and most likely for any books to follow, is my daughter. My daughter Grace. She's currently 4 years old. And she definitely thinks she rules the roost. But she also has given me a lot of ideas to work with just by watching her day-to-day activities, both the good and the bad, and family time, playing with friends. And so just seeing how a 4-year-old interacts, and taking all of that in her day-to-day helps inspire me with ideas. And she is my only child, and so I'm definitely blessed to have her in my life. And so definitely, she for sure is my inspiration.
I love that. And one of the cool things about life is that when we become a mother, when we become a father, we become a grandmother or a grandfather, there's just so many wonderful things that just happen unexpectedly, right? And there's a lot of authors who join us on the program. A good majority of them will say, I didn't plan on being a children's author. It's kind of like the book came to me through the source of inspiration. In this particular instance, your daughter. We're going to be diving into the pages momentarily of A Desk to Lean On. But again, I feel that it's a very fitting title. It's a very fitting theme. There's so many different heartfelt messages in the book. Could you share with your author, or could you share with our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow shining stars, how your book actually came to be? So you just mentioned a few moments ago that obviously your daughter was the inspiration. When did you know? When was that seed planted in your mind and in your heart when you knew that this book needed to be written and birthed out into the world?
Yeah, so I mean, I just, I had a general idea in mind. Now, I'm sure maybe, you've heard this a lot. Oh, I've always wanted to write a book. Well, I mean, a children's book in particular. And, and you could include me with all those people as well. I've always wanted to write a children's book. I've always wanted to have a child, being blessed with a child. And I keep saying blessed because, on a personal front, my wife and I, did have many challenges to conceive a child, and we were able to finally do so. And so we are older parents, but with that, it just was being able to be blessed to have a daughter, and knowing that she will be the only child. I just the ideas were just coming into my mind, as she was growing up. I mean, she's only 4 years old, but a lot of things have taken place, seeing how she's grown up, seeing the different actions and mannerisms she takes, and the idea I picked, various things that are important to me, not just as a parent, but just as a son and a friend. Basically, family and friends are here to help. They want to help, they're here to help. And, knowing more about you as a person, that, you can also help them whenever they're needed. Even if you're 4 years old, 5 years old, whatever your age is, any little thing that you do as an act of kindness is helping. It doesn't have to be physical help. It just could be, few kind words, or, Daddy, can I help you with that? Or, oh, Daddy, that was a great story. Whatever it is, any positive influence, whether it's through words, through physical actions, that's kind of what I wanted to encompass within this book.
I love that. And it's you obviously mentioned this being your first children's book. When we navigate through life, there's different firsts that we experience. And whenever we do something for the first time, we're bound to experience some kind of challenge along the way. So one of the things that really authors, and I'm always very grateful for this as well too, and blessed for it, is that when authors feel comfortable in sharing their vulnerability, because it's very easy, when you see a book at a local bookstore, a book on Amazon, and a regular person could just be like, well, that author's got it made in the shade. Their book is out, it's doing well. But again, we experience these challenges along the way. As a first-time author, what were some of the obstacles, the difficulties that you experienced, and what were some of the things that helped you to move through those challenges to get through to the other side?
Yeah, right off the bat, it was just the process. For example, this is my first book, and just initially thinking about, all right, I'm brainstorming some ideas just in my mind, not even on paper. How do I go about the brainstorming? Putting the words to paper. Do I do it as an outline? Do I just try to write it? Am I just using a Word document or something else, some other fancy program that will help write the book, so I've just completely lost initially, and I initially just put some ideas on paper, some general bullet points for myself, high level, and then through various research about the process, and I kind of learned what was best for me when it was time to put words to paper. And how did I want to format it so it helps me, to make sure that, the book is flowing, and it's flowing in a direction that I want it to, and that also I can easily go back, check, make sure that I wasn't, making any errors throughout the way as far as, either the change in the characters or, what they're really doing or what the mission is for my daughter in the book, that kind of thing. And so, coming up with my own formula that helped me first get the baseline and then started putting out the physical sentences, and how did I want to break that out in a document so that I could easily check it, recheck it, make revisions, etc. So basically that was from the word go, and just finding guidance and ways that I think would work best for me, and eventually playing with those different ideas, finding the way that works best, and then going through the process. And by the process, again, it's all was new to me, and trying to find guidance on, all right, so I have the book written in a Word document, let's say, in a format that works for me. Well, will it work for, an editor? If an editor was going to take a look at my book, and then would it work for when the time came for me to work with an illustrator? And so all of this being completely new, all of it was a fresh process for me. It was a fairly lengthy process, at least in my eyes, it felt lengthy, but it was definitely a worthwhile process. I think a lot of the challenges, again, were a formula that works for me as far as how I want to document the book in its draft form, and then going through the learning curves of having somebody else proofread it, and then going through the learning curves of illustration. I think in general, the longest part of all of this, believe it or not, was not the putting the words to paper, but was actually the illustration side of it.
Mm-hmm.
Making sure that whoever I worked with as the illustrator, is creating the images basically the way I am envisioning them, and the color schemes and the sketches, and, are the characters in the book doing what I want them to be doing based on how they're drawn. And, that was probably for me, the longest part of this whole process, was the illustration work and the going the back and forth with the illustrator, and making sure that, it encompasses, my vision, for this. But then post illustration, just, following steps. I did self-publish this on Amazon, and going through the steps, for that, with Kindle Direct Publishing, and And all the steps that go there were very clear, very concise, and straightforward to follow. But all of that work prior was definitely very new for me, but definitely very rewarding. It was a timely process, but if I could do it again, I definitely would do it again. I think seeing words to paper and then seeing the book and then getting my copy of the book, it's really a rewarding experience.
Thank you for sharing all of that, and specifically your vulnerability. I feel that there's a lot of not only first-time authors, first-time illustrators, but those that are actually just stepping into the writing world, period. For the very first time, they can learn a lot from what it is that you had shared. We are almost ready to dive into the pages of one of the newest children's books here through the PR from the Heart family. We are going to be really excited to talk about that pretzels analogy that I was just sharing a few moments ago. Again, joining us is our featured guest here on episode number 152 of the children's book Spotlight series, David Valovcin. We are sharing his brand new children's book, A Desk to Lean On. It's now available. You can head on over to Amazon.com if it's your preferred online vehicle of your choosing, and you can leave a 5-star review. We've also included the link to David's official website in the description below as well, so that you can continue this wonderful conversation with him post Children's Book Spotlight series. For all educators that are tuning in to episode number 152 of the Children's Book Spotlight series, and if you're interested in connecting with David for an author visit, that's the way to connect with him, is through his official website. But we still have so much more to go, because we do have to get to the pretzel analogy. And now is the time on the Children's Book Spotlight series, David, where we dive into the pages of the aforementioned A Desk to Lean On, the newest heartfelt children's book here through PR from the Heart. This story, it's such a sweet story because we have a little girl named Grace, and she's starting a new school, but needless to say, there's kind of more than meets the eye. And I really love the analogy of Grace is on the case, because this isn't the typical, okay, I'm going to a new school and, la, 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 la. It's kind of like a little bit of an adventure along the way to kind of get to the end part of the story, so to speak. So for those who are learning about your work and they're learning about your book, could you give us a little sneak peek inside the pages of A Desk to Lean On, and what children, parents, families, educators, and those who love great children's books will enjoy as a result of reading a great children's book?
Sure. So basically, A Desk to Lean On, my daughter has had a wonderful summer, and the summer's coming to an end, and she is going to be going to a new school. In her prior school, she had 2 very close friends, and she is determined to find a way to not go to this school, no matter what, she's worried. She's worried about not meeting new friends, meeting new teachers. She's just, nervous about that, and she initially, is talking to me about it, and I'm trying to reassure her, but she doesn't want to hear it. She doesn't want to hear it. She goes back into her room, and leans on her desk, so to speak. And she's staring out that window, trying to figure out a way, leaning on her desk. And then she decides that she's going to talk to her 2 closest friends, Riley and Charlie. She, luckily in this story, Riley lives next door, and she goes next door, and she's trying to figure out and talk to Riley about how she can go, not go to this school. And of course, they both love pretzels, and that's where the pretzels come in. And so, in that discussion, Riley's telling her, oh, well, Grace, you helped me so much, you were so very welcoming when I came into the neighborhood, and we became friends, and she, Riley's talking about how she was nervous moving into the neighborhood. Grace made her feel comfortable, and basically, the message Grace is getting is that, Grace was there helping her, Riley is helping Grace, to calm those fears, and that, Grace will be fine, and so Grace starts, calming down about it, but she's still very unsure and, still not quite there yet, being comfortable. And then she goes off to talk to her friend Charlie, and they met at swimming school. Charlie was nervous about going, into the swimming pool. Grace is there sitting and waiting, and, says, hi, my name's Grace. Come sit with me next, in the pool. and they're talking, and they start playing and splashing around in the pool, and Grace was there to help Charlie feel comfortable, and so the theme there is that, Grace has always been there to help people. And in this case, Riley and Charlie are helping her to ease those fears, and when she gets back and she thinks about it, she's, and the grace on the case was basically she's gonna find a way. She's on the case to not go to this school. And by talking to her friends, Riley and Charlie, she initially hoped that they would also support her in finding reasons not to go to the school, but their support came as to why she would be fine going to the new school, and resurrecting memories about how Grace helped them. And so as she comes back and she's thinking about it, the main, message here is that she goes back to her room, she's leaning on her desk, and, the theme of leaning on the desk changes. She's not there by herself. She has other friends and family to lean on. So she's not at her desk alone, leaning on her desk, and she has other friends and family to lean on. And the theme that goes with that too is that they can lean on her, and so that's what she figures out at the end, that she is ready to go to that new school. She has friends and family to lean on, and also that, they can lean on her, she can lean on them, and that's where that whole title, A Desk to Lean On, came into my mind, is that basically there's more than a desk to lean on.
Love that. I love that in so many different ways, because the title alone, it really hits home. It's not the traditional title for a children's book. It's not, The Adventures of
Right.
Sally at Summer Camp or something like that. There's probably a book that's called that. But as I'd alluded to before, and that many of us at times, whether we're a child, whether we're a full-grown adult, we can feel that we're all alone, that no one understands us, no one gets us, and there's no one there to help us, no one there to support us. Could you talk to us about the significance of A Desk to Lean On? The book itself and the message within, especially again for little ones and for us as big kids at this particular point in time, the significance of A Desk to Lean On.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, and it could apply to anybody at any age. I mean, yes, it's a children's book, but I think the significance there is, very high. I mean, anybody could relate to it. It doesn't have to be about fears about going to a new school. It could be fears about starting a new job, or, fear of getting married, or meeting somebody new, whatever it is. The theme and the message is that you're not alone. You have people that you can lean on, and people can lean on you with a good level of comfort in any situation, new school, new job, whatever it is, at any age. And so, like I said, even though, I wanted to always write a children's book, that's the path I went down. But, if a child is old enough to read my book, obviously that's great. But even if they're not, and the parent is reading their book, my book to them, even adults can relate in some manner, whatever the situation is, school, job, whatever the case may be.
And I'm really glad that you're communicating this as well too, because again, just over the course of these past several weeks alone, with all the different unfortunate and tragic events that have been happening throughout the country, there's moms, there's dads, there's just many of us as neighbors wondering, like, what's the next step? What can we do? We know that there's things that we need to do to continue to move forward. And, change and evolution is a process of life. So one of the things I always go back to, of course, the aforementioned Mr. Rogers, huge source of inspiration here at PR from the Heart. And he would always use the term resource of care. Now, he wasn't referring to children's books. When he was speaking in front of Congress to acquire the $20 million worth of funding for PBS, this is in the early days of Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, he said that what he does is a resource of care. And I'm just so glad that you are sharing your resources of care with little ones and with parents, and again, big kids alike as well. So again, we're beginning to wind down our time with our featured guest here. on the Children's Book Spotlight Series, episode number 152. David Valovcin is joining us, and we are sharing his brand new children's book, A Desk to Lean On. It is now available. You can head on over to Amazon.com if that's your preferred online vehicle of choosing. While there, after reading and enjoying David's book, you can leave a 5-star review. It's one of the many ways that you can pledge your support for David to let him know that he's doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and those who love great children's books. If you want to head on over to David's official website, he keeps it simple. It's his first name, his last name.com. Again, for all the educators that are out there, teachers, principals, for all of our fellow librarians out there, if you're interested in facilitating an author school visit with David, you know how to connect with David in the process as well too. Now, as we had mentioned, and these little ones might not want to hear this just yet because summer just started. As we channeled our inner Alice Cooper, school's out for the summer, right? But sooner than we realize, back to school season is going to be upon us. It's interesting because, and you probably experienced this yourself, like when you go to Target or Walmart right after the 4th of July holiday, it's just the back to school stuff. It's just all out there. It's like you've got this summer vacation for maybe 2-3 weeks, and then it's just like poof. And I can just remember being a little one, and I'm like, oh man, it's that time where you got to get the notebooks and the pens and the pencils. But again, sooner than we realize, back to school season is going to be upon us, and there is always a lot of new for our children. So one of the things that we always like to do on the Children's Book Spotlight Series, David, is provide useful and supportive information, tips, tools, strategies that parents, caregivers, custodians of little ones can implement right away into their daily life. So how can we as parents and caregivers and custodians of our little ones help to soothe the fears of our children, especially when it comes to trying new things or experiencing new experiences?
Yeah, so sometimes what I try to do with Grace is I try to put myself in her position. We as an adult may not think of whatever the case may be as a big issue, but to a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, whatever age child, it could be thought differently, and they may think of it as a big deal, even though you as a parent may not think of it as a big deal. And so I try to put myself in her position, see through her eyes, and also think about myself as a child. What were some of my challenges as a child? I know, when I was young, relocating into a new town, to a new school, those were my fears, and, basically, stepping in there in the new school, I did have, and I was welcomed, by kids, and that just helped. But, initially with a parent, put yourself in your child's, spot. Look through their eyes. What do you think is really bothering them? And then I also, let the child speak freely. I don't try to drive the conversation in a certain manner. I just let the child talk calmly. If the child's upset, I let them calm down on their own time. And when, for example, if Grace is ready to share what's on her mind or what's worrying her, let her tell me in her own words. And that just helps me as a parent to best address the situation as best as I can and what's under my control. And that's what I would say. That's how, I try to offer the guidance, but I first let my daughter speak. I don't try to guess what's bothering her or guess on how best I think is to resolve it. I let her speak first in her own way, in her own time, and then react accordingly, and offer whatever best guidance I possibly can based on the issue or question at hand.
And I really appreciate you communicating about your firsthand experience and what has worked well with you in terms of connecting with your daughter and helping her to move through those news as well too. And one of the things, if I may briefly add, is that it's always important. A lot of times we can second guess ourselves, right? And it's just so important to look outside of us for the answers. And if you're a mom, you're a dad, you're a grandma, you're a grandpa, you're blessed to take care of a little one, maybe you're a stepmom, a stepdad, you know what's best for your little one. And just trust the fact it's always just important. And this is another thing that I love about Mr. Rogers is that and this kind of talks about, goes back to one of the themes of the desk to lean on is that there's always trusted neighbors that are there. You don't have to lean on yourself. At times we feel like we have to lean on that desk, right? Because like that's the thing, right? Because we were wondering, where are the people? Where are the people? But there's always, whether it be, new teachers or a principal or a secretary, just like, when you talk about the school, there's so many different people that are there to let the little ones know that they're loved, they're cared for, that they're appreciated, that they're acknowledged, and that, of course, that they're safe as well, too. A big thing for our kids leading into the back to school seasons, or what we can do to be able to create more peace and comfort and safety and security for our little ones. So, David, in life, we learn every day. It's interesting because, a lot of times people think that like, once we're done with college or once we're done with grad school, or if you're a doctor, you get your PhD, it's just like, oh, no more school. There's a term that I learned about 10 years ago called Earth School, right? And it's a matter of like, we learn each and every day. So it's kind of like school still in session for us, even as grown adults, right? So you've undoubtedly learned a lot along the way through the process of putting your book together, writing it, working together with your illustrator, the publishing process, now promoting the book and getting the message out there. What has a desk to lean on taught you about yourself and taught you about life?
So, it taught me basically that I want to help. I want to, not just with my daughter. Like I said, my wife and I, had a number of challenges being able to have her. And now that she's finally here, it's just been, one incredible process, and so, just being able to have her, see her grow up, and it helps me in many ways. Just being able to just look at her face, and maybe she's not even saying a word, or maybe she's reading a book or watching some television, it also helps me calm me from my normal work day and the hecticness that can come from that. And it's just, it's something that you want to put into words, but, in truth, there's not enough words, there's not enough right words, me as a father, having my daughter, only child, and just watching her, it's a blessing. I love it. And it's something that I just will cherish, for the rest of my life. A parent, yes, being a parent does have its challenges, but you know what? I think in general, all the pros overwhelmingly outweigh the cons. I love it. It helps me on my day to day. It helps me decompress from the workday. And just knowing that when I'm walking through that door, she's always happy to see me, no matter what. She's always happy, and it just helps me so much.
It's wonderful. That's wonderful. Just the personal connection with you and your daughter. I can just only imagine how good this has got to make you feel, knowing the fact that this experience has brought, it sounds like that this experience and feels like this experience of putting the book together has brought family closer together, the relationship with your daughter, and you get to do the exact same thing with other little ones and parents and families. What does that mean to you, knowing the fact that this idea that you had and the relationship that you had with your daughter, that it's really going to be bringing families closer together with all that we've been through over these past 2.5 years? What does this mean to you, knowing that your book is actually going to be making, and already is starting to make, a tangible, lasting impact on children while also bringing families together? Could you speak to us as to what that means to you?
That's an incredible feeling. That desk to lean on, is initially a physical desk, but then it becomes something more, and I think parents, children, they can all relate to that in some fashion, where, the stress of the world, whether you're a child, an adult, it takes its toll. And sometimes, you may feel alone, and leaning on that desk and staring out the window of how to try to best fix an issue or fix a problem. But you don't have to be alone. There are friends, there are family, who love you and want to support you. And you don't have to be leaning on that desk alone. There are others that you can lean on. And then, you may also find that they also want to lean on you and that you're strong enough to be able to do that.
I appreciate you sharing that. I appreciate you, and just this whole conversation, but we still got a little bit more to go, David, in terms of words of encouragement and support. Undoubtedly there's, because a large part of who connects with PR from the Heart, watches the Children's Book Spotlight series, the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, the Empowering Reads for Kids, those who are connected with PR from the Heart, a good majority of them are children's authors. And there's the authors that are stepping into the KidLit arena for the first period, for the first point in time in their lives. So what would be some words of encouragement and support that you would like to share with those that are writing and publishing their first children's book right now that you feel could be useful and supportive for them?
I mean, just at first, let your imagination fly. There's no idea that's not good enough. Even if it's a little seed of an idea, and you feel it's something that can blossom to something more, go for it. I think the self-publishing world has opened up so many doors for so many people, and getting that rewarding process, like I said, from, putting the words to paper to actually seeing the book being published, just, I would say, go for it. You don't have to, sit there for 2 hours, 3 hours a day, saying, I got to write this book. I got to write so many words on the page per day. No, a few words, 2 words, a sentence, whatever it is, if you're able to, do that each day, every other day, whatever works best for you. And, in your time, in your day to day, the ideas will eventually come. And for me, all those came in more of a, relaxing fashion. I wasn't thinking about my regular work day. I did this in the off hours, more often than not after my daughter was already in bed. So where there was some quiet time, and, I just started, maybe one day I did a few sentences, another day, maybe just a sentence, but, eventually it started coming together, and I was able to see the book continue to blossom and go in a direction that I wanted it to go in. But, I would say to anybody entering in this KidLit arena, try it, go for it. If you find it doesn't work, well then, you may come up with another idea. Whatever, works best for you in your comfort, in your time, to just, sit and brainstorm. You don't have to immediately go to the paper and start typing. Even if you're just thinking about it in your mind, that's an awesome start. That's exactly what I did. Came up with those ideas, thinking, and then, what, let me try it. Let me put some words to paper and see if, how I do. Because being it with my first book, I was, my biggest challenge initially was, how am I going to write it? Like, what's the best first sentence, but then you start thinking about, the first sentence is not always the most important. How do I best get the ideas out? Think about them first, put some bullet notes on a piece of paper, and then let it grow from there. That's exactly what I did. And then just slowly started to blossom.
That's great, and it's important to just know the fact that there's so many expressions that come to mind, but Rome wasn't built in a day. That's one, and it takes a village. So it's always important, and this is why I'm very blessed and fortunate to do the publicity work that I do, because no matter if an author, decides to work with PR from the Heart, or if they decide to kind of, go in a little bit of a different direction, it's important to note the fact that to have a support system, that's in place, whether it be your webmaster, your assistant, your publicist, your agent, your significant other, your little one. We all have these support teams. They just happen to they happen to be in different forms, so to speak. So there's 2 specific ways that we always close out each of our children's book spotlight series, David. An aforementioned tip of the cap to one of our favorite neighbors who we've mentioned a couple of times. The late Mr. Rogers, of course, the host of the long-running children's television program, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, that aired on PBS for well over 30 plus years, in different ways, shapes, and forms during his time on the neighborhood when he spoke across the country at college commencement speeches or talks, most notably when he received his Lifetime Achievement Award at the Daytime Emmy shortly before he passed from stomach cancer. He always encouraged us, and he always kept the time, David, whether it be 15 seconds, 30 seconds, or a full minute. He encouraged us to remember those who helped love us into being. And that was his way of saying, remember those that were there where you could lean on them, those earth angels, so to speak, that were always there along your path, that reminded you that you're not alone, that you're special, you're loved just the way that you are. So who would be some of the people that you would like to publicly recognize, some of the people in your life that helped love you, David Valovcin, into being?
Yeah, so first and foremost, obviously my daughter, the inspiration. She is the jewel of my eye, if you will. And I mentioned in the little bio in the back of the book that I don't mind bending to her will. And so definitely my daughter Grace. My wife Laura, she was very supportive throughout this whole process. She's just incredible. And then definitely my parents, my mother. I was an only child. She and I were, growing up, together for quite some time, and so my mother was just, incredibly supportive. She's always been the wind beneath my wings, if you will, and she still is. She definitely still is. My father, he was there too, very supportive for me. Even though my parents were divorced, they were both very much in my life. My father, was definitely, being the father figure and helping me, grow up as well. My stepfather, Al, very loving, very supportive. He's always Mr. Handy, and I love him very much for all the support he's shown. My daughter calls him Baba, and she just loves playing with him, loves it. And so just seeing that love between not just, father-daughter, but for her grandparents is incredible to see. So, I definitely, without them, that they're my support structure. They are my support structure.
Somehow we've managed to channel our inner, not only Bill Withers, but Bette Midler. I love the quote of the wind beneath my wings reference as well too. And David, of course, at this particular point in time, I always like to remind our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow shining stars, that we have it within us. We have the abilities to bring our own heartfelt dreams, desires, goals, ambitions to life. And in the process, we can help our fellow neighbors to do that as well, to bring their dreams, their visions, their goals to life. So inspired by one of our favorite Disney animated classics of all time, we go back to 1992, we go back to the late Robin Williams, we go back to The Genie of the Lamp, we go back to Aladdin, the source of inspiration for how we close out each Children's Book Spotlight Series episode, a little segment that we like to call Three Wishes. So David, you have given so freely throughout your entire natural adult life, between your wife, your little one, your family, your extended family. Now you're giving back to children, parents, families, educators all around the world. So this is your time to receive here on the Children's Book Spotlight Series. So you are being given three wishes. What would those three wishes be, David?
Well, obviously, health and safety, for my family, making sure that, I think number one, definitely health, for me and for my family. I would say that is just tops. The second wish, making sure that, for me personally, I would love to be able to write that next book, so that would be my second wish. I already have an idea in mind. So again, like I said, I'm brainstorming, and I'm brainstorming up here, and then eventually I will go to the paper. So the second wish would be, getting that second book. And I think, third wish, longevity. Like I said initially, I am an older parent. We did, start late, if you will, and so I want to be able to have that longevity, see my daughter grow up, be there for her marriage if she gets married, all that stuff. So I would say the health, the longevity, and of course, maybe getting that second book.
I love that. And I feel that, especially if we have a dream, a vision, a goal, an ambition in mind, and it's connected with our heart, there always is a greater chance of that coming to fruition. Just this past weekend, I actually had the opportunities to enjoy some time at the Greek festival here in San Diego. And one of the favorite words that Greeks use is "opa." And so, like, there's just a part of me after you were sharing those beautiful wishes, I just felt like sharing a little "opa." Here we go. So
Right.
raise your hand if you have had fun on episode number 152 of the PR from the Heart Children's Book Spotlight Series. Got many hands from David and myself on screen, and many hands on screen of the little ones is there. So job well done, mission accomplished, episode number 152 of the Children's Book Spotlight Series. Again, we encourage all of you, listeners and viewers and friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow shining stars, to head on over to David's official website. That's his first name and his last name.com for all of the teachers, principals, librarians that wish to be able to facilitate an in-person or virtual author school visit with David. You know where to connect with him in the process. You can also head on over to Amazon.com if that's your preferred online vehicle of choosing, and you can purchase your copy of A Desk to Lean On, David's brand new children's book that is now available. Indeed, if you feel guided to do so, you can leave a 5-star review. That's one of the many ways that you can pledge your support for David, to let him know that he's doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and those who love great children's books, and to continue to inspire David, because he really has a gift. So to be able to have David become one of the most trusted names in the world of children's literature, that's such a good feeling already, that vision that we're putting out there for David in the process. There are many more magical trolley stops to come. It's hard to believe where is the first half of 2022 gone, but we assure you, here at the Children's Book Spotlight Series, there are many more magical trolley stops to come throughout the summer, because this is the summer reading season. And then again, sooner than we know it, probably the back to school season. And then soon after that, Santa's going to be coming down the chimney, right? So if you are a children's author and you would love to be able to share your inspiring story, the release of your brand new children's book, just like David did here this week on the Children's Book Spotlight Series, to become a featured guest on the program, you can head on over to our official website. That is prfromtheheart.com, where you can connect with us via any of our social media platforms that you now see on screen. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all at PR from the Heart. We've got 3 last tips of the cap in the process. One to one of our favorite neighbors. You remember him and you love him as the beloved Mr. McFeely. Of course, Speedy Delivery, the mailman on the long-running children's television program, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. We know him and we love him as David Newell. For nearly a year and a half, David has continued to join us each and every month for all new episodes of the Neighborly Reviews bookcast, where together, David and I, we deliver the newest heartfelt reviews, newest children's books from the shining stars here in the KidLit community, right here at PR from the Heart. So if you are a children's author and would like for David and I to review your brand new children's book on a forthcoming edition of the Neighborly Reviews bookcast, you know where to connect with us. Via our official website at prfromtheheart.com and any of our social media platforms. We're super excited because we're going to be headed back out. The trolley is going to be headed back out to Pittsburgh in the month of September to record 2 in-studio editions of the Neighborly Reviews bookcast at the Center for Media Innovation in downtown Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Another tip of the cap to one of our favorite neighbors here in the San Diego area, Laura Kavanaugh, host and executive producer of Empowering Reads for Kids. Of course, we join her each and every month to be able to share the newest television children's book reviews here at PR from the Heart through Empowering Reads for Kids. That is the official television book review segment here at PR from the Heart that airs on the CW San Diego CBS 8. So if you are a children's author and would like for Laura and myself to be able to share your brand new children's book and to be able to help you and your message be shared with more children, parents, families, educators, and those who love great children's books here in America's finest city, San Diego, California, you know where to connect with us at prfromtheheart.com or any of our social media platforms in the process. And of course, one tip of the cap to our favorite neighbors here in San Diego, literally just a stone's throw away from our offices here at Unity Church of El Cajon. Each and every month, we are so blessed and grateful to be able to share special episodes of the Unity of El Cajon Storytime with Mr. John, presented by PR from the Heart. So if you're a children's author and would love for me as Mr. John to be able to share your brand new children's book, to be able to connect even further with the little ones out here in San Diego, to have your book be featured and shared and read on an all-new edition of the Unity of El Cajon Storytime with Mr. John, presented by PR from the Heart, you know where to connect with us. And again, to all of the children, parents, and families who continue to support our PR from the Heart Storytime with Mr. John series, the second Saturday of every month at Glen Park in the Cardiff by the Sea area here in San Diego. We're super excited to be able to continue this throughout the summer and into the fall. And of course, if you are interested in learning more information about how we can be of service to you at PR from the Heart, with again the back to school season just around the corner and the holiday season, if you are looking to be able to share your inspiring story and your children's book, but need some additional support to be able to do so, whether it be to facilitate a book media tour in a city of your choosing, to facilitate a featured television interview, or of course, for more information on our Neighborly Reviews bookcast, the Storytime for Mr. John series, etc., you can head on over to our official website at prfromtheheart.com. Schedule your courtesy discovery call and let us see how we can be of service to you. One final time, again, you can head on over to David Valovcin's official website, his first name and his last name. We keep it super simple here at PR from the Heart, as David is in the process. And of course, you can head on over to Amazon.com, purchase your copy of A Desk to Lean On. While there, you can leave a 5-star review. That's one of the many ways we can pledge your support for David, to let him know that he is a trusted neighbor in the KidLit community, that he is doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and those who love great children's books. If this message has inspired you, David's message, his brand new children's book, A Desk to Lean On, if this episode has brought more love and joy and hope for the future of our little ones, if you have enjoyed episode number 152 of the Children's Book Spotlight Series and wish to share it with your fellow neighbor that you feel could benefit from watching this trolley stop, we encourage you, if you haven't had the chance to do so, to subscribe to PR from the Heart's official YouTube channel and to share this very special trolley stop that has been episode number 152 of the Children's Book Spotlight Series. And of course, David, when we hear the trolley, we know that it is time to go. So we want to thank all of you for your continued support of PR from the Heart, for your continued support of the Children's Book Spotlight Series, for your continued support of children's authors and illustrators, such as David, who are doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and all of us who love great children's books, for your continued support of local libraries and children's and independent bookstores, truly the pillars of our community. But above all else, we want to thank you for helping us to walk home the children of the world. One final tip of the cap to, of course, our favorite neighbor, Mr. Rogers. He reminded us in many different ways, especially through his own private numerology. He always really resonated with the numbers 143. Somehow he weighed 143 pounds for his natural adult life. As I like to say, somehow Mr. Rogers connected with Ponce de Leon and he found the fountain of youth, right? But that was his way of saying, I love you, because there's one letter in I, 4 letters in love, and 3 letters in you. As David was kind to give us some of his time this week, we encourage all of you and we remind you, listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow shining stars, that 243 means that we love you. That's our way of saying that we love you. 2 letters in we, 4 letters in love, and 3 letters in you. And that's our way of reminding you that you are loved, that you are special, that you are whole, you are healthy, you are complete, that you are special just the way that you are, that we like you just the way that you are in the process. And this has been such a magical trolley stop. Many more to go. For David Valovcin, for myself, John Masiulionis, we want to thank you for spending some quality time with us here in our neighborhood at PR from the Heart. And we really hope that you have enjoyed episode number 152 of the Children's Book Spotlight Series. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you again for your continued support for everything that we're doing here at PR from the Heart of the Children's Book Spotlight Series. But again, above all else, thank you for helping us to walk home the children of the world, our fellow friends, our fellow neighbors, and our fellow shining stars. Goodbye for now.
Take care. Bye-bye.